morning, students. Today we are going to discuss a poem that is The Cold Within. So let's discuss the objectives. By the end of this video, you will be able to understand about the author, brief summary of the poem, about the poem in detail, and at last you will be able to understand the themes. So students, open your treasure trove workbook, a collection of ICSE poems and short stories, volume 1, poems, at page number 19. So children, first of all, we are going to discuss about the author. The name of the author is James Patrick Kinney. James Patrick Kinney, born in Cincinnati, Ohio, USA in 1923, is an American poet. He is best known for his poem The Cold Within, which is a sort of a parable. Children, here parable means a story with a moral. It is quite strange that during his lifetime, the poem was rejected by many publishers. It was at last published in the January issue of Liquorian, a Catholic magazine, many years after the death of the poet. Kinney has actually written many poems, of which some are noteworthy as A Better World, I Can't Change You, Never Alone, The Secret of Life, Who Am I, and Who's to Blame. Now students, coming to the brief summary of this poem, here the 6 humans get trapped by chance in a bitter cold and they are sitting near the dying fire. Each one of them has a stick of wood to keep the fire burning, but no one wants to give up the stick. Why? Because each one is having some prejudice. The first person, that is white woman, who does not give the stick as the black man's life would be saved. The second person holds on to his stick because the other does not belong to his religion. The third person in torn clothes is a poor man. He does not want the rich man to warm himself, so he does not give his stick. The fourth person, the rich man, he does not wish to help the undeserving lazy poor person, so he also does not give his stick. The fifth person is the black man. He has hatred for the white people, so he also does not give his stick. And the last, the sixth person, he also does not give his stick because he expects others to show the lead. So like this, they do not give their sticks to the dying fire, and as a result, they all died from the cold within and not from the cold weather outside. Now students, let's read about the poem. The Cold Within gives us a useful message through a little story. 6 human beings found themselves trapped together in extreme cold. Their fire, their only hope of survival in the cold, was fast dying. Each one of them held a stick of wood. If any one of them gave up his or her stick to feed the dying fire, all of them had the chance to survive. Now students, here the poet says that 6 humans got trapped by chance in bitter cold, and the only hope of survival was fire. They all were sitting around the fire, which was fast dying. Each and everyone had a log of wood. That means everyone had the chance to survive. They could use the log of wood to keep the fire burning. But sadly, no one of them was ready to oblige for one reason or the other. It was not the cold without, but cold within, which was sure to perish them. This cold within refers to lack of feelings for others, cruelty indifference, hatred, so on and so forth. Like a good parable, the poem conveys the idea that we must tolerate, if not love, one another. We should be kind and generous towards our fellow human beings. We should not allow religion, color, or any other prejudice to become mean, selfish, and even self destructive. Children, now please note down the meanings of these difficult words. Oblige means to help. Parish, die. Parable, a story with a moral. Prejudice, sin. Now students, sadly, none of them was ready to give his stick for one reason or the other. And at the end, they all died. They died due to cold within, that is, lack of feelings for others and not because of the cold weather outside. Here, the cold within stands for the emotions like cruelty, indifference, hatred, etc. At the end, this poem conveys the message to be kind and generous towards our fellow human beings, irrespective of religion, color, or any other prejudice. Now, students, let's read the poem in detail. The Cold Within by Kinney is an inspiring poem. It is simple, straight, and powerful. It appeals to our hearts. It conveys a good message in the form of a parable. The story it tells is simple but suggestive. Students, The Cold Within is written in a simple language, yet it is very powerful, suggestive, and meaningful. Just like a parable or a story, it contains a message. Now, children, what is the message that we have learnt? The message is that we should give up all the prejudices and we should be kind and generous towards our fellow human beings. The setting can be anywhere. Just by chance, 6 human beings get trapped in bitter cold. They are all sitting near the dying fire, their only hope of survival. Each one of them has a stick of wood. If any one of them gives up the stick, it will keep the fire burning and all of them will survive. But sadly and strangely, each has a reason to hold his stick back. Now students, as I have already told you that 6 humans got trapped in extreme cold. They could survive if they would have given their sticks, but they were not ready to give their sticks. Next. The first woman does not want to give her stick as it will save the black man's life, whose face she has seen in the light of the fire. Children, the first person was a white woman. Why did she not give her stick? Because it would save the black man's life. This shows that she was suffering from racial discrimination and she was a bigot. Now, what is the meaning of bigot? Bigot is the one who has very strong, unreasonable belief or opinion about race, religion, or politics, and who will not listen to or accept the opinions of anyone who disagrees. Now, the second man holds back his stick as one of them he has noticed does not belong to his religion. The third is a very poor man in tattered clothes. Here, tattered means torn. He holds back his stick, thinking that it should not be used to warm the rich man among them. Children, the second person was a Christian. Why did he not give his stick? Because one person from the group did not belong to his religion. Basically, in Christianity, there are many divisions. Some are Catholic, some are Protestant. In India, people discriminate on the basis of caste, creed, etc. But in the West, they discriminate on the particular Christianity that one follows. Now, the second person was a Christian. Why did he not give his stick? Because one person from the group did not belong to his religion. Basically, in Christianity, there are many divisions. Some are Catholic, some are Protestant. In India, people discriminate on the basis of caste, creed, etc. But in the West, they discriminate on the particular Christianity that one follows. So here, the second person saw that a man present there does not belong to his church and is not showing his beliefs. Now, the third person was a poor man who was in tattered clothes. That means who was in torn clothes. Now, why did this poor man not give his stick? Because he did not want to save the life of a rich man. This shows that he was suffering from class discrimination. Now, coming to the fourth man, the fourth, a rich man, holds back his stick. He wants to keep his health away from the undeserving, lazy, poor persons. The fifth, the black man, is full of hatred for the white people. He wants to hurt the white somehow by holding back his stick. Now, the fourth man was a rich man. Why did he not give his stick to the dying fire? Because he considered the poor to be undeserving and lazy. This shows that he was a greedy and stingy. Students, the fifth man was a black man. Now, why did black man not give his stick? Because he hated the white people. This shows that he was suffering from racial discrimination. The last man of the group has his own reason to hold his stick back, as no one is ready to renounce his stick, so he too will not. He thinks he will only give to those who give first. Students, the meaning of renounce is give up. Now, the sixth man was a businessman or profit-minded person. As no one was ready to give his stick, so he also did not give his stick. He did everything for profit. He was selfish and business-minded person. And at last, so all of them perish not because of the coldness from the outdoors, but because of the coldness in their hearts. Children, here perish means die. Now students, coming up to the theme, the first theme of this poem is the cold within. The cold within refers to the lack of feelings for or hatred of others, which is nothing short of a cardinal sin. Now, what is the meaning of cardinal sin? According to Christianity, there are 7 deadly sins, which are vainglory, that means pride, covetousness, that means excessive desire, lust, envy, anger, gluttony, sloth. Here, the cold within is referred to as something which is equal to cardinal sin. In other words, lacking the feelings for others or hatred for others is an unforgivable sin. Many of us develop this coldness in our hearts out of some prejudice. This prejudice may relate to race, color, caste, religion, or region. It makes us mean, stingy, selfish, greedy, or unkind. Here, stingy means mean. Students, the theme and central idea of this poem is the cold within. As I have already told you, cold within here means the lack of feelings. Many people suffer from prejudice, and as a result of prejudice, they develop in them the feelings like greed, meanness, selfishness, and unkindness. Often people discriminate with others on the basis of race, caste, color, religion, or region. In the poem, The Cold Within, 6 men trapped together in extreme cold, somewhere perish because of the one or the other prejudice. Here, trapped means caught, perish, die, and prejudice means sin. The coldness in their hearts rather than the coldness outdoors proves fatal to them. The group of 6 men is near the fire which is fast dying. Each one knows that it is only the fire that can make them survive. Each has a stick of wood which can keep the fire burning. Ironically, No one is willing to give up his stick for one reason or the other. The result is their death by cold, the cold within. This is the major theme of the poem. The idea is that the coldness in men's heart is a kind of death. Now, students, in this poem also, we see that there are 6 persons who suffer from prejudices. It is because of the coldness in their hearts. These people died not because of the cold weather outside. They died because of the cold within, as they lacked warmth for each other. These people are sitting at the place where fire is fast dying, and they are aware that if they will give their stick, they can survive. But it is ironical that they are not ready to give up their sticks because of one reason or the other. And finally, they all died. So, cold within is the major theme of this poem. The poem tells us that if there is coldness within a man's heart, it is nothing less than a kind of death. Next, the second theme of this poem is holding on to sins. Another theme of the poem can be leading a life of sins. The poet shows that each one of us, represented by 6 humans, is afflicted with some kind of prejudice or sin, represented by the log of wood in each hand. The most obvious sins are of spite, stinginess, greed, revenge, etc. The poem shows that each man in the unlucky group holds on to his stick, which should have been given to the dying fire. Had they given up their sticks, their sins, to be consumed by purifying fire, they might have survived or might have gone to the other world without the burden of their sins. But they preferred to die with their sins in their minds. The poet gives a kind of message or warning to us when he refers to their tragic end. Their logs held high in death's still hands was proof of human sin. They didn't die from the cold without, they died from the cold within. Now here, the 6 humans represent all the mankind. The sticks in their hands is symbolic of the sins. The people, those who were sitting around the dying fire, they are not ready to give up their sticks. That means they are not ready to give up their sins. If they would have given up their sticks to the dying fire, they would have given up their sins and they would have survived. Or in simple way, we can say that they would have gone to the another world by getting rid of their sins. But they preferred to die with their sins in their lives. They did not let go of their sticks. The sins remained with them. They preferred to die with the sins in their minds. So, the poet gives us a message or a warning when he reads these lines. These lines indicate the tragic end of the poem, and the lines are, their logs held high in death's still hands was proof of human sin. They didn't die from the cold without, they died from the cold within. So students, this brings us to the end of today's session. Now you have to read and revise the poem in detail and theme of this poem. Thank you.